Good evening. On behalf of Mayor Rivera, I would like to welcome to the City of Lawrence FY 2018 Action Plan Public Hearing. My name is Sue Fink, and I'm the Acting Community Development Director. Why are we having this meeting tonight? HUD mandates us to highlight current activities and accomplishments from the past year, remind residents and organizations of the purpose of community development funding, obtain priority needs input for the next year, and to advise the public on how to apply for funds. Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG as we call it, is the grant we're discussing this evening. HUD awards grants to entitlement communities to carry out a wide range of activities, including neighborhood revitalization, such as housing rehab, economic development, such as small business loans, and improve community facilities and services, such as park renovations and public service activities. Every 5 years, we're required to prepare a 5-year consolidated plan, or CON plan for short. It covers 5 years from 2016 to 2020, and this plan reviews data about the city, lists needs and priorities as established from stakeholder input, interviews, and public meetings. It covers housing, community development, and economic development. And it supports the HUD grants of CDBG Home, which is used for down payment assistance, new housing development, and housing rehabilitation, and the Homelessness Continuum of Care grants. The 5-year CON plan is available on the city website at www.cityoflawrence.com. In the current plan, the priority needs and objectives that we established were economic development, affordable housing, parks, public facilities and infrastructure, public services, and homeless services. And all of these intersect to make a community more livable. And HUD has 3 objectives that every activity that's funded with CDBG must serve. It has to either create suitable living environments, provide decent housing, or create economic opportunities. Let's take a look at our past performance. This is from the fiscal year that ended on June 30th of this year. Under housing, we had several goals. The first goal was to expand housing options. This is investments in mill conversions and lead abatement. The second goal is to increase sustainable home ownership, which is done through down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. Housing goal 3 is to stabilize neighborhoods impacted by foreclosures, and housing goal 4 is housing development that responds to local housing market. Here are some before and after photos from our lead abatement and housing rehabilitation programs. As you can see, it's a great improvement on several of these properties. All of these programs are available to low and moderate income families, and some of them are grants and some of them are loans. We just completed a 3-year lead grant in July, and we were lucky enough to be awarded another $2.9 million for another 3 years, and that grant started in October. If you have any interest in those programs, feel free to contact Evelyn Urena, our housing manager. The Duck Mill is a property that Lawrence Community Works is converting into housing and retail space. It's the former home of Ippolito Furniture, for those of you who are a little bit older like I am. You may remember that. It's on Union Street right before the Duck Bridge. When this is completed, there will be 66 units of affordable housing, and several of them will be coming online very shortly. Another housing project we have funding in is Phase 2 of Loft 550, which is over at the former Malden Mill site. There are 62 affordable units, and those units are fully occupied. A few more of our home-funded developments, besides the Loft 550 and Duck Mill, are the Bread and Roses housing development, and they are developing 2 duplexes on Josephine Ave right now, and down payment assistance for income-eligible first-time home buyers, and we serve typically between 12 and 15 clients a year. Human development. This goal is to improve the social and supportive services for low and moderate income individuals. This is what many of you here would be applying for. It would be youth programs, ESOL programs, and things of that nature. We also have special need population under human development. So there are two goals. The first is to continue and expand the efforts that eliminate and/or prevent homelessness. And the second goal is to assist special needs populations with supportive services, facilities, and housing needs. We are providing matching funds for Emmaus, who provides rental assistance and supportive services to 14 Lawrence residents who were formerly homeless. And here are some photos of some of our public service activities. We have a program at the Boys and Girls Club that we fund called Keystone-Youth Leadership and Career College Planning. We provide funding to Lawrence Family Development and Education Fund for their YouthBuild program, which takes at-risk youth and helps them get their GED and learn building skills. This is one of my favorite activities, the Greater Lawrence Community Boating Program, which provides access to one of the hidden gems in Lawrence. If you've not been down there, check it out. They provide water safety instruction and boating skills to hundreds of Lawrence youth over the summer. Lawrence Community Works Movement City is an art, music, and leadership opportunity program for youth after school. And if you've ever been to one of our previous CDBG presentations before the Community Development Advisory Board, you've seen performances from the YMCA Music Clubhouse. It's a great opportunity for kids to learn music performance, writing, and recording. The Merrimack Valley Immigrant and Education Center provides ESOL classes, and this is important for economic development and job advancement. Lawrence Family Development and Education Fund also does ESOL and citizenship classes, and this is one of the priorities of the mayor, so that's something that will rank higher in the application process. Youth Development Organization is a great summer program for youth. Now we move on to neighborhood development. Neighborhood development, goal 1, is to improve public infrastructure, and that's accomplished by our park improvements. And goal 2 is to utilize smaller, undevelopable lots for pocket parks, off-street parking, and community gardens. And this activity is handled through the planning department. Here's a list of some of the parks that have been either renovated or created using grant funds from the state and Community Development Block Grant. Right now, Gagnon Park up on Tower Hill is getting a brand new play structure. I saw some of the equipment going in already this week. Probably won't be finished until the spring because we're going to be coming into some cold weather. And right now we're gathering input from the community on the amenities they'd like to see at Burgoyne Park, which is more commonly known as West Street Park. And we do have an application pending with the state for funding for the O'Connell Park, more commonly known as the South Common. If we're lucky enough to get funding for that, that will be a phased renovation because it's such a large facility, similar to the Campagnon Common renovations we've done. And your input is an essential component of the annual action plan. We need for you to share your thoughts on what the priorities should be for the coming year. Unfortunately, our resources have been dwindling consistently with a little bump up here and there. Last year, we received a little over $1.5 million in community development block grant funds and just under $700,000 in home funding. We don't know how much we're getting for the upcoming fiscal year yet. We'll probably find out shortly after the new administration takes office in January or February. But we're going to estimate about $1.4 million in community development block grant funding and about $600,000 in home funds. So our action plan utilizes data that we're obtaining from HUD. It follows the consolidated plan, which is our 5-year plan, and any other relevant studies. We recently completed a housing study that looked at all aspects of housing in Lawrence, so that will really provide a lot of input for our action plan. And the action plan establishes the priorities, it determines funding investments, and we quantify outcome goals and measures. And as I said, our anticipated funding for CDBG is $1.4 million and home is $600,000. And it all depends on the formula allocation process. It's a very complicated formula that I couldn't even begin to explain. It takes into account the age of your housing stock, the size of your population, the density of your housing stock, the poverty rate, and all those factors. It's very complicated. And we're hoping for level funding, but we try to be conservative in our estimates because we don't want to encourage more applicants than we will end up having funding for, because then we'll have to say, sorry, we told you we were going to fund you, but we got less money. So we'd rather err on the side of caution. We do have some long-term city commitments. As I mentioned, we just received a 3-year, $2.9 million lead abatement grant, and it does require matching funds, which we take out of the Community Development Block Grant. If we get the park grant for South Common, we'll also have a commitment from the CDBG. We have a commitment to make payments on a Section 108 loan program that we gave for the Gateway parking lot up on Canal Street. Administrative support, which funds our salary, our rent, our office supplies, and things like that. Housing rehabilitation. And one item that's not listed up there is the match we provide for Emmaus under the Continuum of Care program. So who's eligible? Nonprofits are eligible, those who carry out public service projects that serve low and moderate income people. You must be an IRS certified 501c3, and you will be required to provide that information. And city departments can carry out public service activities or public facility projects. This current year, we're funding a ESOL program at the senior center, so city departments are eligible to apply. Most of you will fall under the public service cap. Getting ahead of myself here. HUD mandates that we do not spend any more than 15% of our grant amounts plus 15% of our program income that we receive from loan repayments on what they call public service activities. So we're anticipating about a $200,000 cap this year. So that's the amount of funding you'll be competing for among other nonprofits in the city. The real challenge is, how do we handle allocating reduced resources? A few ways that we do that include establishing priority categories, limiting the number of actual grants, establishing minimum and maximum grant amounts, simplifying the RFP, accelerating the contract process, and enhancing performance expectations. It's very important that Congress, who funds the Community Development Block Grant Program, realizes how important these funds are, and the only way they can do that is through performance measurements, goals, and outcomes. So that's why we ask all of that from you. It's a little bit small to see, but our proposed funding plan would have $80,000 available under the youth category with the maximum grant of $30,000 and a minimum grant of $10,000. Under food, nutrition, and health, we've got a total available of $30,000. Under education and training, $90,000. Under housing, this is where that match for the Emmaus comes, so that's not really available for people to apply for. That's already allocated. We've got $10,000 under public facilities, which is the total of $210,000. If we take out the 10 for Emmaus, that's where we get that $200,000 that you'll be competing for. So the two priority subjects that we're emphasizing this year in our action plan are, under youth category, activities that include employment of youth and young adults from ages 17 to 22. And under the education and training category, classes for English for speakers of second languages, particularly advanced courses, and preference will be given to those agencies who are active participants in Mayor Rivera's ESOL task force. We've got some new requirements, maybe not so new, they've been around for a couple years now, but you will be required to provide evidence of up-to-date Secretary of the Commonwealth annual reports, up-to-date Attorney General of the Commonwealth annual reports, and IRS 990 filing, and we do check those. So here's a timeline for the CDBG proposals. The RFP is available today. You can take one home with you tonight. There are copies on the back table along with the census tract map, or you can go to the city's website, www.cityoflawrence.com, and the CDBG FY18 RFP is right on the front page. It has to be a filled out application turned in paper form. We don't accept applications electronically at this point. The next important date, which unfortunately is not on our slide here, is January 5th. Right here in this room from 5:30 to 7:30, we will have an application workshop where if you have questions on filling out your application, if you don't understand how you should answer a question that's on there, come on down, we'll be happy to help you with that. We won't write your application for you, but we'll certainly provide some technical assistance. Proposals are due on February 3rd, 3 p.m., not a second later. This is a procurement process and everything is time and date stamped, so it's fair to everybody. Make sure that you take that into mind. Might be snowy, it's February, plan accordingly to get your stuff in on time. On February 13th, you're going to do a presentation to the Community Development Advisory Board, which is made up of residents that the mayor has selected to give recommendations on how they feel the funding should be allocated. It's really a mandatory presentation. You have 3 minutes, do your elevator pitch, and maybe you'll get funded. In February, the advisory board will give their recommendations to Mayor Rivera. Once he's either agreed or tweaked the recommendations, it goes before City Council for approval in April. Award letters come out in May. Our action plan, which has a list of projects we're funding for the upcoming fiscal year, is due on May 15th to HUD, so we're on a pretty tight timeline. Contract preparation will begin in June, and if you're funded, there's a mandatory finance training that you should at least send your finance person, and if not, your program person too. We'll go over all the nuts and bolts, how you get a contract, how you get paid, what a monitoring visit is, and all the requirements for having federal funding. And your program year begins on July 1st, 2017. So this grant is going to run from July 1st, 2017 to June 30th of 2018. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact Marisol Colon, who is our project officer. Her telephone number is 978-620-3515, and her email is mcolon@cityoflawrence.com. And if you'd like to provide any comments on our upcoming action plan, feel free to email me at sfink@cityoflawrence.com. And this is a list of our fabulous Community Development Department team that would be working on either the RFP process or the actual grant. Angelica Gill is our administrative assistant. She's more than likely the person you'll be handing your application into. Kate King and myself are in the finance department. Yes, I do wear 2 hats right now. Marisol Colon is our project officer, and Evelyn Urena is our housing manager. And any of the folks there are more than willing to help you with any questions you may have through this application process. And does anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, we're all shy tonight, huh? Well, I'd like to thank you all for attending and helping make Lawrence better through all the hard work that you do. Thanks and have a great night.